Folks, it's Smitty and Miss Katie back. It's been a long time since we've done any of these because we had a serious falling out in our relationship, didn't we?
No.
Well, we did. But it was our kitchen ceiling collapsed. That was the falling out in our relationship, that on Christmas Eve, our hot water heater upstairs blew a line and, well, flooded part of the house, and it sort of looked like the Johnstown flood coming out of our kitchen door when we opened our garage door. There's nothing like coming home and watching water come out of your garage door. But
especially on Christmas Eve.
On Christmas Eve. Holy moly. You know, Mary, Joseph, and their asses. So, but anyway, what do we have today, Toots?
1944 D-Day to the Rhine, and I can read that without my glasses.
Wow, that's pretty good. And who's this by?
Our friend Grant Wiley.
And his brother? What was it? What was my brother's name?
Mike.
Grant and Mike. How about that? Because we got a box of 4 games from them the other day and 2 others. So what do you think this is about? D-Day to what? First, the invasion of Europe, right?
Okay.
And going to the Rhine means what? They're invading Germany.
Oh, yeah.
Now, of course, your dad didn't see any action on the Western Front.
Dad was
in the Pacific.
The Pacific Theater.
My dad was in
the European Theater.
The Pacific.
The Pacific. Oh, my bad. Sorry.
You're bad. But my Uncle Harold
was shot down in 1944 over the English Channel.
Yeah, died back, crash landed back in Cambridge.
Yeah.
The story is very squishy. But, so it's a new game. Show us the back. Oh, it's a Worthington game. It's kind of a subtle color, isn't it? It's green.
It's
so
green.
All right. What do we always say at this point?
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Much like some of the British infantry, that they're kind of average too because of the losses the British have suffered. There's one. Here's the other that has, oh, pitter patter of my heart, armor. It is armor. And of course it has your garrison units on it too, and various markers, just like at the bottom of this one. Various game markers to tell you what you've done with various units. We have battle dice, blue and black, which of course tells you what is going on in terms of hits, and we have a single 6-sided die. 3 player cards. This one is the German turn track, which on the back turns out to be the standard setup for the game. I like ones that have standard setups with pictures on them. Makes it easier. Then we have the Ally turn track. And on this one, the back of it is the quick setup for the Normandy battlefield. Okay. Then we have the German replacement pool. And then on the back of it, we have the Ardennes learning scenario and the Ardennes counteroffensive in 1945. Both again, everything is set up neat and easy to see. Now you notice I have a truncated map here. Well, why do I have a truncated map? Well, of course, because I folded it over, right? You all knew that. And let's see if I can keep it from falling off. And of course, it is a mounted map board, and as Miss Katie will tell you, I really like mounted map boards. It is a well done map, I think. It is colorful. It has already stood up well, but of course it will be under my plexiglass because with cats here, I keep my game table covered. That came out Dutchy.
It came out Dutchy.
That's what happens when you grow up around the Amish in Pennsylvania. But, track the little map. Now, of course, and what do we always talk about in the context of this? Books. Because I like books. I like history books. So what are we going to talk to you about in terms of books? Well, there's first the one that, as my buddy and brother-in-arms, Kurt Hudson, would talk about, and everybody who's gone through the Army talk has suffered through this back in the day. Martin Van Creevel's Supplying War, Logistics from Wallenstein to Patton. Well, logistics really ate the Allies' lunch once they did a breakout here. Good book, good for logistics across the span of modern warfare, but very good on World War II, in which I will then talk about probably as well in the Race to Moscow game later, which is not a Worthington game. Then there is one of those green books, the CMH tomes, which we have a number of, and we also have these on CD, because I have then the attachable CD reader so I can look at these. This one is Breakout and Pursuit by Martin Blumenson. This is probably one of the best books of its kind. This is when Army historians wrote very well and worried less about meeting the needs of their political masters. This was the sort of stuff for us to be able to learn from. Think of them as not only good history, but it was AARs. Good book. You can find these online, usually as a reprint, but in a softback version, but it's much cheaper. Then there is Max Hastings' Armageddon. Armageddon, well, let's see, a trilogy is 3 books, so if it's 2 books, is it a series? He did one on the Pacific War too, but Armageddon is one of the most condensed, readable, and best books about the end of the war in Europe. Highly readable, look for it yourselves. Like always, we look for a lot of books cheap on Amazon or the used for quality. This is one Miss Katie bought me years and years ago. It is, well, you can see. You may be able to see them, but it's like my standard stuff. Most of my books are marked up. My books are very well loved because they're marked up, which means I've actually read them and paid attention. So, thank you all for watching again. We'll get this up directly. We're sorry it has taken so long, but what are we going to say? Life happens. Ceilings collapse. Everything else is good in our lives. So Miss Katie is healthy. I'm healthy. And I haven't done a face plant so she can become a wealthy widow at this point. Thanks, folks. Bye. Hey folks, time to look at the game map close up here. You notice we've got the various beaches you could land on. Brittany, Lower Normandy, Upper Normandy, Pas-de-Calais, and Belgium. And of course your garrison areas. Now, the world stops here. We don't get to drive to Berlin. That's not the point, the objective of the game. It is to get across the Rhine and win over here. This then, as far as the game design, is superfluous. Now let's take a look at the dice. They're still in the bag. And you see an air hit, infantry hit, armor hit. All right. Now let's start looking at some of these things in detail. Here is the game pad that we were talking about, the victory condition one. Maybe no great shakes, but I think it's a good way because I used to always do mine either on Height electric pads when I was a much younger boy living at home still, or on 5x8 cards. Okay, there's that. Next is the rule book. The rule book right here, as we pull out, you can see it right there. We will go ahead and open it up. The disembodied hand, as we were talking about here, colored, and it's first 2 pages. Victory conditions. Let's see, does it have, and it has components on the front, but let's see, does it have on the back? No, because on the back, it has your terrain chart. It's interesting because the game doesn't have a terrain chart in it. All right, here are your 3 objective cards. Objective Roar, right here. The Broad Front, which they say is Bradley's thing, but that's really what Eisenhower adopted, so I don't know where they're quite gone with that. And the Single Thrust, which is, we know, let's have Monty win the war by himself. Right, there are those. Let's get out counter sheets. Okay, there are some counter sheets here. There are 1 of 2. Your allies, your German infantry game markers. When I said about earlier, things that make your heart go pitter patter, here's the German armor. Garrison units, other game markers, and other game markers. Then we have the player's aid cards, your German turn track, which in turn becomes on the back side the initial setup. We have the German replacement card, which on its back becomes the 1944 Ardennes Learning and the 44 Ardennes Counteroffensive and 45 game. Then we have here the quick setup for D-Day, and on the front of that is the initial Ally order of battle, replacement table, and such. So, down and dirty, quick and easy, and as we always say, at least that we forget our manners. We thank the Wileys for this, and then we always talk about books again. Just so you can see them close up. Martin von Krievold's Supplying War. Armageddon by Max Hastings. And then, of course, the CMH book, When CMH Used to Matter. The Green Book, European Theater of Operations, Breakout and Pursuit. As always, thank you, folks, and have a blessed day.